Hello, good evening and welcome to this North West Area Planning Committee meeting held today, 8th of March 2023. My name is Councillor Maddie Thompson. I'm the chairman of this committee. Before we commence the business of the meeting, there are a few housekeeping issues to run through. We're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. When invited to speak, please turn on your microphone and speak clearly, referencing a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Please keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible and ensure your microphones remain off when not speaking, as this is important for the live streaming to be heard clearly. Finally, can I draw your attention to the notices on the agenda papers regarding the different levels within the chamber and advise that the fire exit is the door behind this top table. Right, members, there is no members update this evening. Apologies for absence, please, Mr. Jones.
Good evening, Chair. We've had apologies for absence from Councillors Fleming, Morgan and Siddle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, so next item 3 is the minutes of the last meeting. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of February, found on pages 7 to 20, are approved as a true and accurate record. May I take them as read, members? Thank you. I so propose. Could I have a second? I've heard Councillor Durham first. Right, are there any matters of accuracy, members? Can we agree those by assent? No dissent? Lovely, thank you very much. So, item 4, declarations of interest. I'm afraid I have to read this. I'll try not to fall over it. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registerable interests, and non-registerable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members are reminded they're also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise for the meeting. Any offers? No, I'm not seeing any hands up. So we move on to agenda item 5, which is our planning application for the evening. That's former Atherstone Lodge, Fambridge Road, and that's on pages 21 to 34. We do have a speaker, and that will follow the presentation by Mr. Doe. When you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will be referring to the presentation on the screen, and the first main slide shows the location of the site with the red hatching on the western side of the road there. Maldon is to the north and the B1018 to Latchington is to the south, and further to the south is the B1010 to Southwood and Ferrers or Burnham, but that's further to the south. This is the site location plan, more specifically the site edged in red. The site edged in blue is the existing business which is on the site as a whole, Ben Rigby Game. The nearest neighbours are Red Oaks Farm, which I hope you can make out with the cursor moving there, and then Redgate Bungalow just there. There's open land, a paddock on the opposite side of the road, and the only other nearest neighbour is Littlewood Place to the south there. They have a paddock and a metal shed just outside the boundary of the Red Line site. This is an aerial photograph of the pretty much of the same, really. You can see there's sporadic low density development on the eastern side of Fambridge Road, and the site is on the west there. That's the metal shed I was referring to. This is the existing block plan, i.e. it's an empty site. There was a bungalow there. Planning permission was given for a chalet house. And this is the proposed block plan. This is the outline of the building in question. there would be a diesel generator hidden and screened at the back of the site there. The lorries for this warehouse would use the primary access, the one to the north there. There is an existing access further to the south, which would just provide access to plant at the rear there. That too is an existing access. I'll show a photo. That was for the house which was to have been on the site. This is the ground floor plan, and the building would be essentially nearly all double height. That element to the north there would be offices. There would be a break room over to the eastern side, a yardsman's office, entrance lobby there, and this shows the generator proposed at the back. 780 square metres to the building, essentially all a cold floor. This is the first floor plan, and that would have a boardroom on the eastern side and an admin and accounts office over there. This is the street scene drawing. The materials would essentially be grey profiled sheeting. The access is on the right hand side there over to the northern side, and I don't know if you can make out in red the silhouette of a dwelling which was previously approved on the site. The main access is to the northern side of the site there. It's an existing access, and this is the secondary access to give access to the plant, as it would be. Another view of the site. This is the existing existing access, which would be a secondary access. These are the north and south elevations, i.e. the side elevations in relation to the site. Loading bay over there, plain agricultural looking to the southern elevation. The east elevation, the front elevation, was previously shown in the street scene drawing. This is the view of it around the back. It would be physically attached to an existing building by a linkage little part. A section, this is the main part of the building. The northern part would have effectively a mezzanine floor as shown on the floor plans. This isn't part of the application, but this was the dwelling which was approved on the site. That would have had its own access and retained the access to Ben Rigby Game at the right hand side, the north there. As you'll see, quite a sizable dwelling in terms of silhouette. This is a view of the site taken from the northwest, just panning across, a very similar view looking a bit more to the south. Closer up, that's from the access track. A view of the main access from within the site, and you can just make out part of the blue line site, the existing business use. More of that. The existing business use has a small retail element, and that shows outside the site to the north a view looking up the track, and that's essentially the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Very good.
Location plan.
Okay, thank you. Next is our speaker, that's Mr. Ryan Knight. He's speaking to us remotely via Teams. Not entirely sure how we get that up, but I'm sure somebody knows. Wonderful, thank you. Yes, I'm sure you know the rules, Mr. Knight, but for everyone else's benefit, you have 2 minutes. Could we get the timer up? So please don't start. There we go. Can you minimise it? You need the box in the middle. That's the kiddie. Right. Okay, Mr. Knight, you have 2 minutes and we'll start the clock when you begin to speak, but I am very, very strict. You get cut off practically mid-word if the bell goes. Thank you. Sorry? Can you see the clock? Can you see the clock, Mr. Knight?
No.
So we give him a little bit of leeway.
Okay, I've been asked to be kind, but I'm sure you've got it down to the last nanosecond because professionals always do. So, when you're ready, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Knight and I work for Arcadia Architects, who are the agent for this application. I'd like to highlight the following points for consideration. Ben Rigby Game is a successful fresh meat business that are well established in the local area and support the local economy. They currently lack the facilities to store their produce, and pressures caused by the UK withdrawal from the EU has led to issues with the exporting process. This has resulted in a need to rent cold storage off-site at considerable expense and is proving to be an unviable solution. The proposal would enable Ben Rigby Game to operate an on-site cold store equipped with much-needed modern staff facilities, allowing them to remain at their London site and expand their workforce, promoting economic growth and employment opportunities locally. The initial comments from Environmental Health concerning hours of operation, noise levels and the backup generator have been resolved through the submission of further information, and they now have no objection to the application. The location of the cold store will allow for the existing site background noise to be buffered by the structure to help reduce any potential noise pollution on Fambridge Road. Furthermore, the proposal promotes the sustainable reuse of brownfield land and will help to improve the overall appearance of the site. The design and scale resonates with that of agricultural stores in the area, with a height similar to the previously approved dwelling. There is also a great deal of opportunity to protect and increase hedgerow and planting along each of the boundaries to enhance biodiversity and defensive screening. To conclude, the application seeks to provide a logical solution to the cold storage issue that is having a considerable impact on Ben Rigby Game. Responses from the case officer and consultants have been positive, and securing this consent will permit the company to remain in the village and continue to offer economic benefit to the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and perfect timing, thank you. Right, members, a discussion, and hopefully we'll get a proposal out of that. I actually spotted Councillor Durham first, then Councillor White, then Councillor Stevens.
Well, I think this is as straightforward as they come, Chairman. Thank the officer for the very good presentation. Look, this is a well-established, long-established local business. Clearly they're working on trying to cut their costs in respect of their cold storage, and I don't think, I certainly can't think of any planning consideration that would be valid to refuse this, and I'm very happy to propose that it's approved in line with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, that's seconded by Councillor Keys. Oh, well, we can debate it now we have something on the table. So, Miss White, your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My concerns, I support the business 100%. I supported the last big storage area they had when I think he had flats above and shops below. I can't quite remember. So I've supported nearly all the applications over the years. My only concern with this is it's really high and it's really close to the road. In fact, I'm really surprised. And all I would say is there's evergreen hedging to the north and the south, and rather than having some native stuff which might be very good for biodiversity, it is not very good for screening. So I'd like to propose that in the conditions we insist on there being similar evergreen hedging to effectively cover it up from the road, because that's going to be quite big. And one of the sites you could see looking across the road has just got planning permission for a house. That's derelict bungalows. So, I mean, there is going to be quite a lot of, there is going to be an effect on the countryside. So for me, it's just screening. If we can get some, not just hawthorn, but either laurel or Christmas trees, whatever you call those things, something like that.
Not leyland.
Or something like that, yes, but spruce, that's the thing. Laurels are good, although they have to be well drained. So that's the main thing, is make sure they get the draining done properly, otherwise they'll just die if they get wet. But yeah, so for me, I'm happy to agree with the recommendation, providing we get some really good screening, because that is really, I'm surprised how close to the road it is. I'm like, oh, it's a bit of a surprise. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask Mr Johnson about adding that, and since it's Councillor Durham's proposal to accept the rec, he has to amend the proposal, or we'll vote on that. And yeah, so, okay, Mr Johnson.
I'll second that.
No, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, you know, there's a condition for, you know, details of planting to be submitted. Funny enough, there is under condition 15, it talks about the hedgerow. That you're familiar with, because it talks about hawthorn, etc. You don't want.
If I might come back, I don't mind if there's hawthorn, if it's a double hedge, but it must have evergreen as the main hedge plant, because although hawthorn may well be good for biodiversity, it's not very good for screening, and that is vast. And there's, as I say, there's leylandi or spruce or something north and south, and we need to do something with that front boundary to lessen the effect. I mean, if that could perhaps come back to me so I can have a look and see what the planting plan is, but other than that, I'll support it, so I'm happy with that.
That's
Okay,
not a
but
problem.
if it has to be agreed with
we
officers,
can add that to it. Yeah.
and officers are aware, that's fine, thank you. Did you mention an extra condition you were going to mention?
If it's appropriate to talk at this point, yeah.
Of course, but
Yeah.
why not while we're on conditions? I'm sorry, I will get to you, Councillor.
Well, I was going to suggest that an additional condition be added, because this is a B2 application. There are certain B2 uses quite wide. There's certain B2 uses we don't want. Should the applicant, you know, relocate and the site be open for some other user? So we don't want, you know, car repairs or uses of that particular sorts of nature. Not that they may not be appropriate there, but they would need to be subject to a planning application. So that's an additional condition I'd like to table.
I think that's eminently sensible.
That sounds very, very sensible. Thank you. I'd be very happy with that.
Actually, that's a really good point, because I might come back. You know, it's a renowned business that deals in game. It's local game that's collected from local shoots. It's then prepared and packed and sold, and it's that local connection. That's the only reason that makes it acceptable, because if it was anything else, any other business in that location, because that really sticks out like a sore thumb. There's nothing north and south other than fields. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens, that might have helped you with a question, or may not. So,
thank you, Chair. And through you, Chair, I'm sorry, but I completely disagree with what Councillor White's just said. What we've just said by saying, oh, let's have some evergreens, some laurels or whatever, is below the biodiversity. What the humans see is more important. And I don't agree with that. I think it's quite ugly, actually, and I'm tired of seeing industrial units that are just cheap grey metal walls. If it needs to go back further to make way for a double hedge, well, so be it. But I don't think we can just say, oh, let's put some spruce in there that belong in Scotland, don't they? They're not native to here. Just so that we don't have to look at it as humans. I think it says somewhere in the report that anyone looking at it would be having a fleeting glance as they drive speedily along the road anyway. So I think we need to stick with where we were to start with on that. I don't know if officers want to respond to that before I ask my other question.
Mr Johnson? I don't think we're binning the hawthorn entirely. I think it's just that it can be a bit spindly, especially when it's young.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the condition can be flexible in terms of type of species. This is something we would discuss with our arboriculturists in any event to ensure that it's appropriate. Clearly, we don't want it just to be completely overbearing, yeah. But you know, these are something that we will normally be negotiating with the applicant to make sure that we get the right balance between species and size and composition, etc. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Actually, could I just ask, if it were a straightforward agricultural barn, that would be a prior approval jobby anyway, wouldn't it, for this kind of dimensions? Yeah. Okay, sorry, Councillor Stevens, please carry on.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I would just urge that we think about the creatures and don't put humans first in this situation. I've got a question, please, about the hours. So presumably if it's a storage warehouse, then things will be stored in it 24/7 by 365. Things aren't going to be emptied out at 5 p.m. And yet we're proposing to add a restriction to the business hours. And that would seem to me to be adding a restriction to the business hours, therefore, of the existing business units, because the storage will be in use 24/7. So could somebody clarify that for me, please? Thank you.
Is that
Well,
Mr. Doe, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. This
Sorry, yes, well done.
This condition being discussed comes essentially from environmental health. The condition would apply to the red line site. It wouldn't apply to the existing business further to the west. But in terms of deliveries, environmental health have recommended the conditions set out in the relevant condition. I hope that answers your query.
Thank you very much, yes.
Yeah, I think it's the toing and froing rather than the stuff being kept cold on site. Councillor Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I can't find this on our... what are the hours, please? That's one of my questions.
I had them a moment ago. Mr. Doe, if you're quicker than I am.
I can't find them on here.
It's condition 3.
Yeah, I can't find the report. I've only got the...
Right.
What's
Page
on the
31,
screen?
condition
Yeah.
3. The use hereby permitted shall only be undertaken between 0730 hours and 1800 hours on weekdays and 0730 hours and 1800 hours on Saturdays, and not any time on Sundays or public holidays. This shall include deliveries to and collections from the site. So
Right, so that's just the new bit, but they can work
That is
24/7 or whatever their old hours are behind it.
I believe so,
It's
Mr.
just
Doe.
the new bit.
Just the new bit.
red line site.
You can't change hours retrospectively.
Does that not seem a bit, you drive by a place that you can't deliver to go to a place that's working? I could understand if perhaps it was round the other way, but lorries can come in the site, drive past the store, which they can't deliver to, but deliver down the back where everybody else is working. That just seems a bit crazy to me. The other way round, yes, I can understand, but you can't come to the front of the house, but you can go to the back of the house. Is there anything we could do to... I know they're environmental health, but that just seems blooming crazy.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, the only thing I could say is that these hours were discussed with the applicant. They were accepted. My assumption is that it fits in with their business model. If at some later point down the line it doesn't, they're always willing to come back to amend a condition, and we can consider it on its merits. Thank you, Chairman.
It just seems completely crazy, that. Is there anything we can put that we would be open for him to discuss the hours? No? Yes?
Not at this point.
Not at this point. Right, well, right. If this was an agricultural building, we wouldn't even probably be sat here tonight, because it would be passed with retrospective building. Tractors and trailers would be able to go in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it was livestock, delivering week, combines working all through the hours of the night. Yet to have a cold store, this just seems blooming crazy to me, but the applicant's definitely happy he's not come to any council agreement with this. This is perfectly done for environmental health, was it?
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, there'd been discussions around issues to do with noise attenuation, the generator, reducing decibel levels. Even a supplementary report had been prepared by the applicant as part of, in support of this application and with negotiation with environmental health. So this matter had been to-in and fro-in. If an issue had been raised between the discrepancy between the front building and the back building, even though it's the same business, I'm sure it would have been raised at that point. Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, if the applicants are not unhappy, then I would not miss,
Thank you,
let
Madam
us
Chairman. Thank you,
fix it.
Mr. Johnson, for clarification. It just seems crazy to me. But
Councillor Stevens, you want to come back?
And sorry, I'm going to slightly harp on about the same subject. So does this mean that a lorry could deliver stuff to the back, to the bit in blue on the diagram there, and it could be processed in whatever they do to it in the back, and then when it's ready for storage at say 5 a.m, because it's coming up to Christmas and you're busy, that you can or you can't then transfer that stuff into the storage internally without another lorry arriving.
I suppose it wouldn't be a delivery. That's one for you, Mr. Johnson.
I mean, clearly, I don't know how they operate their business model, but there is an existing operation which takes place on the site. This element is something which they currently carries out off-site somewhere. As the agent said, it's uneconomical. Best to have it on site. I'm sure that having it on site within those hours would fit in with what their business model is. We can't control the goings and the comings of the existing site. That's been there since permission was granted back in the 90s.
Yes, sorry, through you, Chair. No, I've understood that. It just seems, I mean, I'm with Councillor Keyes here, that I don't really understand how a storage area can have hours of work, because clearly it's occupied all the time. So the back half can carry on as it always has done, 24/7, and then in the middle of the night, I'm not clear whether if you took something into the storage area in the middle of the night, would you be breaching these rules or not? Because you would be breaching them in that you're operating in the cold store, but you've not got somebody coming in the front gate. Nobody would know, so it's not very policeable. I'm just confused by it.
Mr. Johnson.
Right. There is a discrete element to the front site as opposed to the rear site. The front site has its own tracking in terms of the lorries coming in and going out of the building, the activity that would take place from that lorry at that part of the site, which is nearer to the street, potentially creating more noise into the sort of more wider and more occupied environment. These are some of the considerations. If I'm starting to breaking it down, right, that I would be thinking about as the reason why it is at least reasonable in this sense, under the application we have in front of us, with the applicant supporting this, to put this application to committee on that basis. What we can't do is change what the applicant has agreed to. We either accept it or we refuse it, or we can propose additional conditions where they're reasonable. We have discussed some of those in terms of landscaping and in terms of the operation of, the use of the site, in the future at some point. But I think what we're discussing here now is almost like just kind of morphing this site and the site at the rear, even though it's the same operator. I'm not sure if it's necessary or even reasonable for us to enter into that conversation here. Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, I was just going to say it is intensification of the use of the site, and I'm thinking in terms of, for instance, Beckenham Business Park, where early businesses there were not restricted at all, and that, as things have grown, has actually caused enormous difficulties in the village. So for myself, and I can only speak for myself, I'm more than happy to support the officer's recommendation, but I wouldn't want to extend it before anything, beyond anything the applicants have actually asked for. Why would you?
No, that's what they've asked for.
So, Councillor Morley, you haven't. They can come. They can come back
Thank
any
you,
time.
Madam Chairman. Just really, local employment. How much extra employment will it bring to the area, and is there adequate parking? Because it looks rather busy around there.
That's one for Mr. Doe,
Thank you.
I think.
I can say that the business employs 19 members of staff at the moment. I touched on this point with the agent. The response I got was that it would secure the existing employment. Beyond that, because of the vagaries of the commercial market, I asked that, but the agent didn't want to commit to an answer. But it certainly would be a good thing for employment, but I can't provide precise figures, sorry.
No. It's storage, you wouldn't expect it to be enormous numbers, but if it secures the business as a business. Okay, members, can we go to the vote on this? So what we have.
Yeah, but I think
I
I think the proposal is we agree it with the proviso that the hedging has a lot of evergreen in, so it screens it from the road. That's my concern, and I'd be happy if the officers could come back and we could have a look at that before it goes through, because that's the only issue I've had from the parish council and residents. Obviously, it's in my ward. Was how big it is and how grey it is. So, and it is quite isolated there. It does stick out a little bit on its own. Thank you.
So any planting will be agreed between officers and the arboreal tree people, and if you can come back, if you could consult with me, please, as chairman, and the 2 ward members, that would be perfect. So, members, can we put that to the vote? Those in favour of the recommendation with the smaller discussions about the landscaping. Okay. Well, that's everybody. Thank you very much. So that concludes our planning. Thank you very much. That application is approved in line with the officer's recommendation and agreement on the planting. Our final item is item 6 on the agenda. Other items of business the chairman of the committee decides are urgent. You'll be delighted to hear there are none. So, with thanks to officers and members of the public, I close the meeting at 8 o'clock.
Madam Chair.